Watch what thrill up his leg little old Chris Matthews said on Friday.
When is President Obama going to get some credit? And this is like Rodney Dangerfield. When's he going to get some credit for this amazing economy that's coming back? It definitely is coming back. Maybe not like gangbusters, but the unemployment rate really dropped again today. And there really are 250,000 new jobs out there. It really is amazing. And the stock market for the rich is going through the roof. When's this guy going to get some respect? Republicans, when are they going to set his standards? Okay, if he gets to this number, we'll love him. You got to ask this question. Will ever admit he's doing a good job?
Deserves credit for what? Now, on the same day that Matthews went on that rant, news broke that more Americans were on food stamps in 2012 than ever before in the history of this country, with nearly 50 million Americans participating in the program just last year. Now, Chris Matthews is not the only liberal who's trying to cover for the president. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, she's been running around town trying to sell the notion that President Obama is actually bipartisan, reaching out to the other side. I'm not kidding. Watch.
In my view, I've served with a few presidents, two as leader or speaker, and I've never seen the patience, the willingness to listen, to accommodate views as President Obama has extended to the Republicans. The president has always been very respectful of the views of the Republicans in the Congress, their leadership and their membership. He has always tried to accommodate him. This idea that but for that we would have gotten all these other things done is just really not reality.
Always respectful. They want dirty air and dirty water. They don't want to help the old people or kids with autism and Down syndrome. And joining me now with reaction to these Democratic delusions, Breitbart.com columnist Kerry Pickett, Professor, Occidental College, Caroline Heldman is back. All right, Reuters points out the real unemployment rate stands at 11.3%, Caroline. We have a CBS study shows more Americans are raiding their 401ks just to pay their basic bills. We have a record number, nearly 9 million fewer Americans since Obama's been president, that are in the labor force, and then 50 million Americans on food stamps, 1 in 6 in poverty. Help me out here. What is this amazing story that Chris Thrill Up My Leg Matthews is trying to sell us?
Well, I'm certainly not as positive as Chris Matthews about this, but unemployment has dropped to 7.7%. We see growth in both service sector and manufacturing. The housing crisis has turned around.
Caroline, 9 million fewer Americans in the workforce. 9 million fewer.
Yeah, no one's saying that that is not the case. But remember, when President Obama took office in January of 2009, we were hemorrhaging 800,000
5 years ago.
jobs
I know.
a month.
I'm bored. I'm sick of hearing it. He'd cut the deficit in half. Did he cut the deficit in half, Caroline? Did he said he cut the deficit in half in his first term. Did he do that?
No, of course he didn't do that, because we were in an economic crisis, and he inherited the deficit as well.
Are more Americans working or less?
More Americans. Well, it depends upon when you start the clock. We are talking about steady job growth.
How about the day he took office? Let's start that day.
Sean. The day he took office, we were hemorrhaging 800,000 jobs a month, and we had 34 months of steady job growth.
Kerry?
34 months.
Well, hold on a second. Look, we went from about 40 million people in poverty in 2009 to around 46 million people in poverty today. And think about this. Jeff Sessions, he said in around December that we spend that the program for welfare is probably the most that the federal government spends on than any other program that the federal government actually spends on right now. And think about this. We have a government that gives out awards to government workers for actually recruiting people onto welfare and trying to get people who don't want to go onto welfare to come onto welfare. I mean, this is a little bit ridiculous here.
You know, but the number's even bigger than that, Kerry, because it's 18 million more Americans. 1 in 6 Americans are in poverty. Now, you hear Nancy Pelosi, others talking about the stock market. Do any of those people on food stamps, are they investing in the stock market, Caroline? Anybody there?
You know,
Sean, I tend to doubt it.
I'm really impressed. I'm impressed that you're now concerned about the poor. Thank you for that. But the fact of the matter is, what you are doing is like,
only Democrats care about poor people. Only Democrats want clean air and water. Only Democrats care about not killing old people. You're right.
Well, you know, unfortunately, I would agree with you on most of those points. But what you're doing is like saying, you know, the Coast Guard going out to rescue a boat and then blaming the Coast Guard for not rescuing it quickly enough. You are placing blame in the wrong place.
That boat's going down right now. The boat's
Get over
going
it.
down. The boat's going down. I'm not seeing any plugs actually coming in. The boat's going down. We're going down on the Titanic right now. I'm not seeing anything happening with this federal government. Really?
Every sector is improving.
Where?
Manufacturing, housing, the
Housing,
service sector.
housing. Most people
Unemployment is going down.
All right, hang on a second. I didn't add one other piece here. He's given us $6 trillion.
Manufacturing over in China.
$6 trillion, Caroline, in new debt. You know what he's done? If I'm going to use the same hyperbole as Obama, he stole that money from future generations. He's stealing from children. He's stealing those poor kids' money. He's breaking open their piggy bank. He's a thief.
Well, I can just imagine him, you know, in their bedroom at night with a hammer, Sean. The fact is the deficit problem started in the early 2000s with 2 wars we couldn't afford and 2 tax cuts that we couldn't afford. And it has been exacerbated by the economic downturn.
Hold on a second. First of all, I want to go back to something you just mentioned before, manufacturing. Can I point out here that are you talking about the manufacturing in the United States or the manufacturing over in China? Look, we are losing jobs here. We are seeing our unemployment rate go up. And frankly, things have not gotten better in any of the
Well, it's actually
sectors
gone down to
that you mentioned.
7.7%. It just went down, so I'm not sure what you're referring to.
I'm not seeing how it actually has actually improved because people have actually lost jobs. They're actually.
I got one last question. If we don't count the people that have been on unemployment for a long period of time that are still unemployed, is that, in your Occidental mind, is that an accurate number?
No, of course not, Sean. I prefer
so
the
it's
much
not
higher
accurate, so
number
then
because
stop
it's
People
more
referring to
aren't
it.
looking for jobs anymore, Caroline.
I'm saying you're placing blame in the wrong area. The stimulus brought us 2.5 to 3.6 million jobs. Economists agree it was a good idea. It should have been bigger, and you are blaming the wrong person here. We should be blaming Wall Street. They tanked our economy.
You're blaming a guy on a Texas ranch right now.
Blame Bush, blame the tsunami. That's what it is. All right, we got to go.